the Art and Industry of Business and Living podcast, discussing conscious choices around business, money, life and living, and creating a greater future for you and the planet. Hey everyone, welcome to the Art and Industry of Business and Living. You're with Simone, and you're just with Simone. That's all you've got today. I'm at home in Prigian Beach. It's beautiful and hot here at the moment. I love being home in summer. So grateful to be here in summer. And this is a crazy time of year. Have you noticed that? It's like there's people who have so many different points of view about what they're supposed to be, doing around Christmas time, and all the projections and expectations around being with family. And, in Australia, it's really odd as well, because you have, it's summer, it's hot. You have Christmas, you have school holidays, you have everything. And most businesses in Australia start to shut down, just before Christmas and don't open till the 15th of December. And everybody is saying that they want everything done by Christmas. And now it starts to get to this manic phase. What I would like to create is, what if you were able to go to like a Christmas mall on the 24th of December and have ease? What if you didn't pick up on any of those points of view, about money? You didn't pick up any of the points of view about family, etc. You just had this ease. So the mantra of Access is, all of life comes to me with ease, joy and glory. And what if all of life could come to you with ease, joy and glory, even in these crazy times of the year? So I've had a similar theme showing up recently with some sessions that I've done, and also people that I work with and people that I know, and money seems to be coming up in everybody's world. Fancy that. So I wanted to run a few clearings about money, and I also wanted to just talk about it a little bit and see if we can create a different point of view. Because one of the things that I've noticed is the people that have spoken to me about the money stuff that they have going on, they seem to always make money more significant than anything else that they can create. Now, I don't know what occurred for me, how I created it, but for some reason, even when I was in debt, and $187,000 Australian dollars in debt I was about, it was like 16, 17 years ago now. Even when I was in debt, I still had money and I still created it. I was just obviously not creating enough money. But I had the ability to make money, and I never made it, more significant than me. So how many of you are making money mean more than the value of you? It's like, what if we could look at that and start to change it? It's like, you are the source of creation. Money is not the source of creation. You are the source of creation. It's like money didn't come along and be like, hey, I created myself and here I am right in front of you. There is something that you chose to create that money showing up in your life. Every single choice you make creates something. So what choices are you making today in regards to money, in regards to anything, and how is it showing up? Like, if you start to have a look at that. So there was one person I actually spoke to today, and she was, quote unquote emotional when I saw her, and she started crying, and she said to me, she's got a second job and she lost this second job. Now, when I asked her some questions, she didn't even want to do the second job. She thought it was horrible and she hated it, but she lost it. And so her point of view was, it's coming up to Christmas time. I've got my kids, I need to have this money, and now it's gone. Okay, you can hear the question in that, right? Hey, there's thousands of questions in that. Yeah, no, there's not. So I said to her, I asked a few questions about, if she actually wanted to do that job, and she was like, no, I hated it. Okay, so then what else is possible? Like, what other possibilities are available that you've not, yet looked at? And I happen to know a little bit more about her life. So I said to her, hey, have you already created different possibilities and more possibilities showing up that you haven't yet acknowledged? And she looked at me and stopped crying and was like, yeah, I have. I was like, okay, so what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? And we came up with about 3 or 4, more and different revenue streams that she could create money from. That was something that she pretty much wouldn't have had the time to do before. So what I see is sometimes people do this thing if they hold on to something so tight and they don't let go of it because they've decided that if they let go of it, they'll have nothing. What if that wasn't true? What if it wasn't about not letting go of something? What if it was about actually allowing the space for something different to show up that you may actually love and enjoy? So how many of you are in these jobs that you hate and you're not allowing yourself the space for something different to show up? What would you truly like to create? Now, I'm not saying we'll go out and quit your job and you say, oh, Simone said to do that on her podcast. It's like, that's a choice. And as I said before, what choices are you making today and what are they creating? Because every single choice. So if you choose a reality today that's like, oh, you know, my life sucks, nothing's showing up, I don't have any money, I can't afford this, I can't do that, everybody else has stuff, but I don't have that, you know, I could never have that, blah, 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 blah. You get the gist? Okay, is anything going to change? Or is it just going to be this trauma and drama of what you've decided cannot show up? Now, the other choice, well, there's many choices, there's infinite choices, and the other energy that's available for you with the choices you could be making is going, all right, I have no friggin' idea what's next. You know what? I'm going to be truly so vulnerable and I'm going to jump off this cliff and find out what is next. Now, what are you going to do? Ask questions. If you don't ask a question, then nothing else can show up, okay? Even like, what else is possible today that I have not yet asked for? And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. I mean, at the moment, there's a few people that I'm involved in a business deal and looking at buying this property in Brisbane. And you know what? The mortgage broker came back to us with a few different things in the bank, etc. So, and it wasn't really what we desired. So instead of going, oh no, we have to do it their way, we went, all right, so let's ask a few more questions. What if we could ask for this? What if we could ask for that? And ask them, okay, is there any other way that we could do this? Because if you don't ask, they're not gonna, offer it. Like, let's use a bank, for example. If you've got a mortgage, banks will they'll write you up the mortgage and they'll create a deal with you that you pay that mortgage monthly. At least in Australia, that's what they'll do. You pay that mortgage monthly, okay? So that means you pay it monthly, you've got X amount of interest that you have to be paid, and it's done over, many, many years. Now, if you change that up and you pay that even every 2 weeks or even weekly, you can cut down the payments by about 15 years because you're not paying all of that interest on top of it. But a bank won't tell you that. You have to ask. And as soon as you ask, they will implement it for you. So even if you're meeting with an accountant and a financial advisor, the bank, anyone, it's like, ask, you know what, if this was you, what would you do here? And what I want you to do is use this universal law, because the universal law is that if you say truth, even in your head, it's like you'll know if it's a truth or it's a lie. So in your head, you could say truth and say, okay, so what would you do if this was you? Like, what is the best way for me to pay the least amount of money here and have the most ease? And ask them that question. And most financial advisors, accountants, bankers, lawyers, etc., they'll end up telling you something and you'll learn something different. You can choose it or not choose it. Again, that's your choice. But if you don't ask questions, then nothing else can show up. I mean, if you look at your money situation now, and how many of you have decided that the only way you can earn money is from your one job that you have? Now, you say, that's the only way I can earn money. It's like, I have to work X amount of hours. I have to do this. This is how it occurs. Well, you've just excluded anything else that can show up. So how many of you are living in a choiceless universe when it comes to money? And everything at that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Wow. It's so interesting to me when I do these recordings because, you know what? I don't, quote unquote, have a live audience in front of me. And yet I ask to, tap into every single person who's going to be listening to this podcast when it goes live and in the future. And the energy of the amount of people who create and choose a choiceless universe with money is huge. So you are not alone, my friend. And let's change it. I mean, there was another friend I was talking to today, and it was about an investment that was occurring in another country. And they said, we have to work out how we're going to get the money. And I was like, no, you don't have to work out how you're going to get the money. You need to choose it. Do you actually want to do this? And they're like, yes, I want to do this. Okay, you need to choose it. Once you choose it, then you allow the change to show up. Now, I'm not talking about going, oh, I want to buy a private jet and it's $40 million and, yes, I choose it. And then you go ask for it to be done. And, it's sort of like an unconscionable desire maybe that you might not have $40 million sitting around, and maybe you do. But it's not about working out how is the money going to show up. It's about demanding that, yes, I'm having this. Now, what else is possible and what action can I take? Yeah, what action can I take to create the future that I'm asking for, which is, XYZ, whatever that is. I remember when I first bought a house, my first house that I bought, and I was actually living in the house. I was renting it, and I was meeting with my accountant, and the house was for sale, and she said to me something about, do you like this house? And I was like, yeah, we love it. I was living in this house with my ex at the time, and she said, why don't you buy it? And I was like, oh, we could never afford this. And she looked at me and she went, really? Why not? And I went, okay, you just said that and you're my accountant. So you know all, our financial stuff. Okay, tell me how we could afford it. So once we spoke to her and then we went and saw the bank, etc. And then, ta-da, we bought the house. And it's like, how does it get any better than that? But it was something that I had decided was outside of me and not possible because I didn't have, the money that they were asking for, in the bank account. So how many of you dismiss the possibilities that are available because you've decided that it's too much for you? What have you decided about money? And everything that is, times a Godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all names, shorts, boys and beyonds. And again, you know what, go check out theclearingstatement.com with Dr. Dane here. He explains all about that. But basically this is so much about destroying and uncreating your point of view that you have around, different topics, and money being one of them that we are talking about today. So, because the other thing is too, it's like how many of you grew up with being educated about money and being empowered to create as much money as you possibly can? Or is it more about the earning the amount of money that you were brought up with, whether that's below the in poverty, or if it's the mediocrity life or the rich life, whatever that is. And it's like whatever you grew up with is usually what you're told you should have. But you can't have any more either. You're not meant to earn more money than anyone else in your family. Well, it's just sort of a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? What comes first, the chicken or the egg, And I know that I have outcreated my parents and what they earn, and it's not considered something that is normal. So how many of you are trying to be normal and trying to fit in? And what if instead you could outcreate every single person in your family? This Christmas, do it. What if you made that demand? And it's not done from competition. It's not done from excluding someone or something else. It's chosen, it's a choice, and it's chosen because you would like to create something different in your life. You'd like to create something different in your living. It's like for me, right now, it's like from being $187,000 in debt many years ago, wrote a book about it. If you don't have it, do yourself a favor, get that on Amazon, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. Or you can go to gettingoutofdebtjoyfully.com, and there's a whole bunch of tools in there and questions and processes, etc., to start changing your point of view around money. And I did, and I used the Access Consciousness tools to change my money situation. Not kidding, okay? That's how it occurred. And I'll give you a couple of my favorite ones throughout this podcast as well. But if I look at my life now, it's like, I've got investments in Australia. I own part of a castle in Italy. It's like I'm investing in a property in Costa Rica. And I'm not looking at like, well, that's enough. And I'm also not looking at, I must have more. It's like each action I take that creates more for me and matches the energy of what I want to see in the world, which is more consciousness and more awareness with everything and everyone. It's like then more starts to show up. And I don't create based on how much money is going to show up. I create based on, is this going to create more consciousness in the world? Is this going to create more awareness for me if I choose this? And what if that is where your choices came from? And what if a totally different reality was available to you based on that? Oh yeah, there is. So I said that I would give you a couple of the tools that I used when I first started to get out of debt and create more money. Now, some of these, like the first one is the 10% account, and you may or may not have heard of this tool. I hated this tool when I first heard about it. I thought it was stupid. I'll make myself laugh. I thought it was stupid, and I thought, this is insane. I owe all of this money, and then I'm going to put 10% of it away, 10% of my money away just for me. So the idea is every single, dollar you earn, you put 10% away, that's just for you. You earn $100, you put $10 away, that's just for you. Now, I want to be clear on this. This is not just for you so that you can buy a new car. It's not to, help you out when you're in dire straits, or help a friend out, or, go on a holiday, or, buy Christmas presents. It's not for that. The 10% account is an honoring of you, so you don't spend it. Yeah, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. You don't spend it. So it's a 10% account and you don't spend it. So I thought, like I said, this was absolutely crazy, insane. Why the hell would I be doing this, especially when I owe so many people money? But the one thing I realized, and you might want to have a look at this, is every single choice I was choosing was not creating something greater. And as Einstein says, you do the same thing and expect a different result. It's like, that's the definition of insanity. Okay, I was choosing insanity. I was doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I knew I had to change something. So I went, okay. And I just had a chat to myself. I actually didn't tell a bunch of people because I never really felt like there was a whole lot of people that were supporting me on a lot of different choices that I made. Like I remember when I gave up smoking cigarettes and I was like, I'm going to give up smoking. And everyone looked at me and went, yeah, right. You're not going to be able to do that. And I didn't. I gave up for 2 weeks and I started smoking again. And I realized that I was looking for support outside of me rather than it being my choice and me choosing and me being that source of creation. So I did give up smoking, but it was like 6 months later when I did it cold turkey and I didn't tell anyone. And it took like a few weeks before someone actually said to me, I haven't seen you have a cigarette. And I said, yeah, I gave up a few weeks ago. Because I realized that I had to make that choice, and I had to, it was sort of like this switch in my head that I went, I smoke, I don't smoke. And I, had to give myself that demand that I was going to choose that, not look at somebody else to choose it for me. So how many of you are looking to someone else or for someone else to choose something for you rather than you choosing it? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So the 10% account, I went, I'm going to use some of these tools. Now, here's another book that I highly recommend. Give it to yourself for Christmas, or give it to your family or your friends, whatever. It's called Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. And it's written by Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and Dr. Dane Heer, the co-creator. You can get on Amazon. You can get them on accessconsciousness.com as well. So it's called Money Isn't the Problem, You Are, which I think is a fabulous name, because so many people try and make money the problem. Money's not the problem, you are. It's like your stupidity, your scarcity, your place of functioning from lack and conclusion and limitation, that you cannot change this and you cannot create something different, okay? You're the problem, not money. Yes, I said it, ladies and gentlemen. So everything that brought up for you, we destroy and uncreate it. All the points of view where you went, fuck you, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So 10% account. It didn't make sense to me, but what I did was I went, I'm going to pick some of these tools from this book, Money Isn't the Problem, You Are, and I'm going to start to put them into action. And I gave myself 3 months. And I thought, after 3 months, and I literally set a reminder on my phone. I was like, okay, after 3 months, I'm going to have a look at my finances and see if anything's changed. And it wasn't about proving it to myself or proving it to anyone else. I was asking for change, and I knew I needed to do something different, as I said before. So I started my 10% account, and everything I earned, I put 10% into this other bank account. And honestly, every time I looked at it, I was like, this is crazy. This is insane. And one thing I did do too is I rang every single person, including, corporations, institutions, personal loans, whoever it was.
I rang every single person and I said to them, hey, look, I'm really aware I owe you this amount of money and I'm going to do my absolute best to pay you back as soon as possible. I don't have the money today and I'm working on it. And can I tell you, everyone was so grateful that I actually made that call. I mean, there were some people I owed like $15,000 to, and I said, I can do $20 this week. But I started with that $20 and I made the demand that I was going to start changing my money situation because I was done with not having any money. I desired to make my life way more easier and actually have money in my life. So how many of you would like to make 2020 actually having money in your life? And everything that that is, times a gazillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So 10% account, put it away, kept putting away, 10% of everything I earned. Because one of the things I see most people do too is, especially if they owe money and you're in debt, people tend to have this point of view that they don't want to make any money because then all they have to do is give it to somebody else. Okay, so what if you are making money and you went 10% goes to my honoring account and then you have a percentage, maybe it's 10, 20% or something like that, that goes towards paying off some debt or goes towards doing that. But then the rest of it, you've got to use for you. You've got to live. Just because you owe money or just because you don't have any money doesn't mean you don't get to live, okay? So don't give up living based on the insanity around money, okay? Please, please, please. So put my 10% away. And I've got to say, at the end of 3 months, and it really wasn't making sense to me, at the end of 3 months, I looked at the money and I had some money in there. It wasn't a huge amount. And I looked at all my finances and I realized that it wasn't so much about the money that I was making. It was, I had this sense of peace with money because I could look at one of my bank accounts and I had money. And it was such a different energy to me. And it's like, how many of you are living paycheck to paycheck so that you don't have any money? And a lot of people, you might be included in this and you might not be, use no money as the source of creation. So you start to create when you have no money rather than, what if right now you pictured yourself having $100,000 just sitting in your bank account, checking account, savings account, whatever, it doesn't matter. And $100,000 is sitting there. It's like, what would you choose today? What action would you take? It's like, are you really going to sit back on the couch and just drink beer and watch footy? Or would you actually be doing the same job? And if not, then what would you like to choose? Like, what would your life be like? What sort of groceries would you eat? What champagne would you drink? Where would you go out to dinner? It's like, what would you choose? And start to choose your life based on having money and start creating it. You can create a really different reality with money. It has to be your choice, okay? It's your choice. So let's do that one again too, of everywhere that you've decided that you're living in a choiceless world where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And how many of you are, it's like you validate other people's insanity around money by choosing less than. I mean, how many of you around this family time, it's like you don't want to be the one that shows up with money? Why not? You know what? For years and years and years, I spoke to my family about, access consciousness and the fact that I was working with Access and, the worldwide coordinator, was for 18 years. And, now I'm, facilitating classes all over the world, etc. I've been very heavily involved in the business side of it. When we first started with Access, it was in 4 countries and now it's in 187. And there's a lot of things that I created with that and started up with that and contributed to the growth of the business. And my family, one Christmas, I was very excited and I gave them all Access Consciousness products and I gave them bars, which is a hands-on process that we do. Please get your bars run if you can over Christmas time. If if you're feeling stressed out or something's, feeling funky in your world, check out accessconsciousness.com and I think it's /bars, but find a bars facilitator and get your bars run. It's amazing. It will create less, funk in your world. And it's a hands-on process, 32 different points on the head. So anyway, I gave them all bars and I gave them an Access product thinking that they were going to go, oh my God, this is fabulous. Tell me more. Nope. None of them did. I think they all just looked at me like I had 3 heads. Anyway, I enjoyed myself, so that's what counts. And then one day I drove up, because I used to drive this old Toyota Tarago van, one day I drove up in my new car, which was a convertible BMW. And that is the day that my family actually said to me, what is it that you're doing now? And they wanted to know more. Not really that much more at all. But you know what? I just had to make me chuckle that because I drove up in a convertible BMW, they were now interested to see what it is that I was doing. So, you know what? Don't really have a point of view about it, but it's like I am happy to be the odd, the black sheep, the one that's different, etc. Because how many of you are trying to fit into your family's reality around poverty, scarcity, lack, money, and have the point of view that you're too greedy if you earn more money? Why? Why the fuck are you labeled too greedy if you earn more money? It's like, what can you do and be with money? So everything at that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot on, and shorts, boys and beyonds. Okay, so one last thing I want to talk about here before we go to is generosity of spirit. It just reminded me of that. You can, if with money, you can change people's lives. And what if one of the purposes of having money is actually to change people's lives and have a generosity of spirit? And it doesn't have to be much, okay? It really doesn't have to be much. It can be like $1. But I tell you this story the other day, and sort of defeats the purpose with the generosity of spirit telling you the story. But hey, I'm going to tell it to you anyway because it was really sweet. And I was at a beautician's and I was getting some stuff done, my eyelashes, eyelashes and eyebrows done. And I was talking to this young girl, and she's a really bright young girl and really eager. And she's from outback Australia. And, she was talking about Christmas time, and I said, are you taking some time off? And she said, yeah. And she was talking to me about she doesn't think she could afford to go home for Christmas, because the tickets are expensive. Now, I want to say she wasn't complaining. It wasn't this thing in her world where she was like, poor, poor, pitiful me. She was just stating that she really didn't have the money to do that, so she might spend Christmas in the Sunshine Coast on her own. But she was, looking forward to having time off. And I was just asking her questions about, how she grew up and where she grew up, etc. And at the end of it, I looked at her and I paid for, what she'd done, and then I gave her extra money to buy her ticket back to the property that she grew up on. And she looked at me and she went, you can't do that. And I went, yeah, I can. And she went, no, you can't do that, and started crying. And I was like, yeah, I can. And I was like, please take it. And I was like, Merry Christmas. Please go home for Christmas. Go see your mum. Have some fun. And she just looked at me and she was like bawling, going, oh my God, you can't do this. And then she sent me this really sweet text a few days later just saying, you've changed my entire world. She said, I can't stop thinking about this. Like, thank you so much. Now, that wasn't a huge expense for me to buy a ticket for someone to go, back home to country Australia. Yet the sense of the change in her world, that, my friends, is priceless. So here's my request, challenge, whatever it is that you desire. What if you could change somebody's world with money over Christmas time this year? What would that be like? And like I said, you know what? It can be $1. It doesn't have to be much. But what if that generosity of spirit and that energy that money can be changed the world? That's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm asking for. So everything it doesn't allow that to show up, let's destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all names, shorts, boys and beyonds. So I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you guys this evening. I always think it's interesting because if I do a podcast on my own, I wonder if I'll ever have it, if I won't have anything to say. Ha, ha, ha. That's never true. So in the meantime, though, I do want to remind you about a couple of classes I have coming up. I do actually have one coming up on, I think it's called Get Happy and Stay There. You can find it on the Access Consciousness website. It's a one-off Zoom I'm doing on Monday the 23rd, and it's, Australia time zone. I think it's 5 or 6 o'clock Queensland time. It's an hour, and we just want to, let's get happy and stay there. Let's do something different. Let's celebrate. Let's live. And I've also, please, if you've got a business, you've got an idea, check out all of the amazing, wonderful Access Joy Business Facilitators. We call them JCFs for short. I have a class in Hamburg, Germany from the 17th to the 19th of January. And then it's also audio live. So if you're in Europe, you can come to Germany or jump on audio live. And then I also have one in Melbourne, Australia. Business Done Different. They're 3-day classes. There's no prerequisites. highly, highly, highly recommend you read the Joy of Business book, which you can also get on Amazon. The one in Melbourne it's either going to be the second or the third week, but you know what? You can go to accessconsciousness.com or accessjoybusiness.com. Check it out. And also check out my website, SimoneMilasas.com, and yeah, leave us some reviews. It's like, tell us if you like this, if there's any, certain topics that you want to hear about, etc. You can email that to team, TEAM, at accessjoybusiness.com. And I am so grateful for all of you listeners out there. I do get a lot of feedback from people saying that they really look forward to, the podcast coming out every week, which I'm really grateful for that. It's really nice to hear feedback. And like I said, if there's any topics in particular that you'd like to hear about, let us know. I adore you guys. Good night, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And have fun. Again, what if the purpose of life was to have fun? Are you having any?